عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب إن ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah, it's a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are all able to gather here and perform Isha together as a congregation, especially in these days, the days of the Hijjah, where the good deeds are multiplied a lot more and are more beloved in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than most of the other days. I think today, currently, we are in the 8th day of the Hijjah, correct? Yeah, we're in the 8th day of the Hijjah, so then that means tomorrow, or like for the Islamic calendar tomorrow, but in the normal calendar, we'll be considering Tuesday. That'll be the day of ARAFAH. So inshallah, we should all, prepare for that, just look into that and, make intention, inshallah, to do as much good deeds as we can on the day of ARAFAH. And if we are able to, inshallah, we should also try to fast on the day of ARAFAH. Because like I said, on the day of ARAFAH, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you for the sins that you've done for the past year and the coming year. So inshallah, we should keep that in our minds. And then one of the things I was going to speak about was that, in the days of ARAFAH, we're all trying our best to do as much good deeds as we can. So one thing that we should all also try to add into like good deeds that we will want to accumulate or try to keep throughout the year is, following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is one main aspect as a Muslim that we should try our best to follow. And it's one that, many of us are lacking in this day and age. You see a lot of people outside and then, you might come up to someone and they'll come up to you and say, Assalamu alaikum, and then you look at them shocked, you'll be like, wa alaikum salam, but then you'll look at them and you won't even think they're Muslim. They're outward, they may be a Muslim, some people will say like they're a Muslim inside, they're a Muslim by heart, but then their outward appearance, they don't look like a Muslim, you wouldn't be able to tell if you just looked at them at that moment. Following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a very important thing, and it is emphasized in a lot of hadith. Like there was one hadith where Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu narrates that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there will come times where those who are patient or those who are following in the religion, holding on to the deen or holding on to the sunnah will be like holding on to hot coals or like burning coals. Because these days, when you go outside, people are usually scared or they fear of what other people will say, or they'll think when I go out, if I do this, I'm going to look weird. Or maybe, someone's going to look at me and think, man, what is this guy doing? But the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that following the sunnah is actually, encouraged, and you shouldn't worry about what people look at you. You should only worry about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks. You're not going outside or doing things to please the people. You're doing actions to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is one thing we should keep in mind. We should try our best to practice as much sunnah as we can. And it's not just for us, it's also for people around us, our kids or, our siblings, our family. Because if you don't follow into the sunnah, then people will look at you, and then if you try to go out and say, you should do this or you should do that, then they're also going to say, but, we don't see you doing that. Some kids, they'll look at their mothers, some daughters will look at their mothers, and then when their mothers try to tell them you should wear a hijab, they'll be like, yeah, but I never see you wearing a hijab, so why should I? The sons will tell their fathers, when their fathers tell them go to the masjid, they'll be like, yeah, I don't see you going to the masjid either. You're either sleeping, you're at work, so why should I do it if you're not doing it? So if we're trying to show a good example to our children or to other people around us, our family, then we should try to implement it into ourselves first, then try to, persuade others to follow into the same thing. Now there's one that a lot of people, some people do, not everybody, but there's some people who go saying that, in Islam you should only worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. And there's some people who don't listen to the sunnah or don't believe in what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, because they think that, whatever's in the Quran is the only thing we should follow, and whatever's not in the Quran is not supposed to be followed by Muslims or anything. But then, by saying that, you're also contradicting your own statement. Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in many places that you should obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you should also obey Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Like there is one place in Surah Nisa where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنكُمْ فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله ورسوله إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا. And the translation for this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O believers, obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obey the messenger and those who are in authority over you. And if you disagree over something, then you should refer it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to His messenger if you truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day, and this is the best and fairest resolution. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only saying that you should look into the statements and the worships of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you should also look into the sunnah, or what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says. Because not everything in Islam that's followed is in the Quran, but is also stated by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his sunnah and his hadith. So we shouldn't only follow the Quran and say that whatever is in the Quran we will do, and whatever Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, we're not going to follow that, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we should follow him and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So if we want to be successful, we should worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to implement this in our lives. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.